Article 22, Player Health and Wellness. Section 1, Requirements for certain team player health professionals. Each team is required to secure services of at least 2 team physicians, and these physicians must be duly licensed, who is board certified and fellowship trained, has at least 5 years of post-fellowship clinical experience, and successfully completed a fellowship in sports medicine, has a certification of added qualification in sports medicine, or has other, quote, sports medicine qualifications. At least one athletic trainer needs to serve as head athletic trainer, and one athletic trainer to serve as assistant athletic trainer on a full-time basis. And they must, as of the hiring date, be certified by the National Athletic Trainers Association or the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association, and have a certification in basic cardiac life support or basic trauma life support, and have at least 3 years of experience as an athletic trainer since they received the foregoing NATA or CATA certification. There should be at least one strength and conditioning coach that's designated as the head strength and conditioning coach, who has all of those certifications necessary as well. And they would need, as of the hiring date, to have at least 3 years of relevant experience. Section 2, one surgeon. A player requiring the care of an orthopedic surgeon will be referred to and treated by one orthopedic surgeon rather than several. Section 4, disclosure of medical or health information. Each team may make public medical information relating to the players, provided that such information relates solely to the reasons why that player has not been playing or has not been able to play. They can make that information public under those grounds. A player or his immediate family has the right to approve the terms and timing of any public release of medical information related to any injuries, illness, or health conditions suffered by the player that are potentially life-threatening or career-threatening and do not arise from the player's participation in an NBA game or practice. If a team or NBA requests that approval from the player or his family and they don't get it, then they're limited to disclosing that information as being unknown to the team. A player is entitled access to his own medical records, and upon the request, the team must provide it within 48 business hours. Section 5, draftees. Prior to any NBA draft, the NBA and or its teams may request that that person voluntarily submit to a standardized medical or lab test other than tests for controlled substances and intelligence and or personality tests, and the results will be kept confidential from the public and the media. Any person who submits to this may, prior to the draft, be requested to submit voluntarily to an examination by physicians, but will not be required to undergo any further medical tests administered unless deemed necessary by the NBA-appointed physician on the basis of the initial testing results. Section 7, health screenings. Players shall submit to reasonable screening and baseline testing. Section 8, electronic medical records. The NBA will use during the term an electronic medical records system, or quote EMR, that will provide player health information. And the EMR will allow for the NBA, but not the teams, to conduct player health and safety reviews, allow for authorized academic researchers to access the data and conduct studies to improve player health and broaden medical knowledge, and give players the ability to easily access their own health information and grant the access of that information to physicians of their choice, both during and after their careers. Section 10, second opinion. Players have the right to receive a second medical opinion at the team's expense regarding the course of treatment for an injury, illness, or other health condition that either has prevented them from participating in a regular season or playoff game for 2 weeks or more, is more likely than not to prevent the player from being able to participate for 2 weeks or more, will not be significantly aggravated by the player continuing to participate in NBA games, results in direction from the team physician that the player should undergo surgery, or results in direction from the team physician that the player should not undergo surgery when the player reasonably believes that surgery is necessary. The parties will maintain a list of the, quote, second opinions of jointly appointed medical specialists. Each are called the, quote, second opinion physicians. At least 2 board-certified physicians will be designated in each of the geographic regions. Now, prior to obtaining a second opinion, the player has to notify the team in writing of his decision to get that second opinion, the name of the physician, and the date and location, and the team will make available to that physician relevant medical information regarding the player. If pursuant to subsections A through D, the team will pay the medical costs associated with the second opinion. A player may not be absent from the team for an unreasonable period of time or miss any games without authorization from the team. If the second opinion physician provides the team with a written opinion and the player has otherwise complied with all the things he needs to in order to get it paid for, then the team will be required to consider the second opinion. Section 11. Fitness to play. The parties will establish panels of physicians, each called a, quote, fitness to play panel, for the purposes of determining whether players with potentially life-threatening injuries, illnesses, or health conditions are medically able and medically fit to practice and play basketball in the NBA. Now, the fitness to play panels will have 2 different jobs. There will be 2 that will determine cardiac illnesses and conditions and blood clots and other blood conditions and disorders. If the NBA and the team or the Players Association has been advised that the player is medically unable to play basketball, as a result, the NBA team and the Players Association may refer the player to a fitness to play panel. And the panel will review the player's illness, injury, or health condition and then provide a report to the aforementioned parties, setting forth their determination. The determination that will be made by the panel is whether the player is medically able and medically fit to play basketball, and performing such duties would not create a materially elevated risk of death for the player. Now, after the player has been referred to the fitness to play panel and before the player or the panel reviews the player, then the player is required to sign a release and covenant not to sue agreement, provided that this agreement will not apply to any claim of medical malpractice. In the event that the panel determines the player is medically able to play, then the player will be required to sign an informed consent and an assumption of risk agreement before he's able to play, and will be deemed at that time able to play and permitted to do so. If the panel does not determine the player is medically able to play, the team, the NBA, or the Players Association may again refer the player to that panel beginning on the later of the first day of the season that begins immediately following the date that the report was issued, or 9 months after the date, whichever is the later. Now, in submitting a request for them to for the panel to reconsider its determination, there needed to have been writing by a physician that said there were materially changed circumstances since the prior report was issued. Nothing will obligate a team to allow a player to play, even if the panel determines that they are medically able to do so. And if a team disagrees and refuses to allow the player to play, then the team will be required within 60 days of the issuance of the report from the panel, or if the report is issued on or before the date that is 60 days prior to the date of the trade deadline and May 31 by August 1, which is the, quote, evaluation period, to either trade the player, agree to amend the player's contract via Article 2, Section 3L, waive the player via paragraph 16 of the Uniform Player Contract, or waive the player via the, quote, partial waiver procedure. Now, provided that the partial waiver will not apply to any player who is in his last year of his contract, excluding any option year, at the time the panel provides its report. The partial waiver procedure will operate as follows. It'll have the same period for other waivers that there are for other waivers. Any team other than the team requesting the waiver may submit either a full waiver claim or partial waiver claim. A, quote, full waiver claim is a claim for the full value of the remaining term of the contract. A partial waiver claim is a discount bid of a single dollar amount, rounded to the nearest dollar, for a portion of the value of the remaining term of the contract. Now, a partial waiver claim can be for equal or greater than the minimum player's salary for all remaining protected years and less than the full base compensation provided for in all the remaining protected years of the contract, provided that it may never be less than the total of the unprotected base comp provided for in all the remaining protected years. A, quote, remaining protected year means any remaining year in a contract that contains any amount of base comp protection that is not contingent on some event occurring on a date after the request for the waivers. And for clarity, any player option year in which the contract includes the language in Article 12, Section 2, small a, capital A, and the effective season of or any subsequent year to an ETO shall be a remaining protected year. And any player option year where the contract includes the language in Article 12, Section 2, small a, big B, and any team option year will not. In order to submit a partial waiver claim, the team must have a team salary below the cap and room equal to at least a portion of the claiming team base compensation obligation, plus any likely bonuses applicable to the first year of the remaining protected years of the contract. Now, quote, room includes room that can be unilaterally created by the claiming team. Example, via renouncements or waivers, but not trades, and the room must be created immediately upon the awarding of the player via this waiver procedure. If at least one full waiver claim is submitted, the contract will be awarded to the team entitled to the highest offer of preference in accordance with the waiver procedures. Now, if at least one partial waiver claim is submitted, the contract will be awarded to the team submitting the highest partial waiver claim in total dollars. If there is no full waiver claim or partial waiver claim, the contract will be terminated. In the event that the contract is awarded to a team, or, quote, claiming team, as a result of a partial waiver claim, the claiming team will be responsible for payment of the player's base compensation equal to the total dollar amount of the partial waiver claim allocated over the remaining protected years of the contract in proportion to the base compensation provided for in each remaining protected year. And this is the, quote, claiming team base compensation obligation. The waiving team shall be responsible for paying the total base compensation in each remaining protected year, less the claiming team base compensation obligation for each remaining protected year of the contract. This is the, quote, waiving team base compensation obligation. The claiming team shall also be responsible for the total amount of all other compensation other than base compensation. The claiming team base compensation obligation plus any likely bonuses via remaining protected years of the contract and total base comp plus likely bonuses of any remaining unprotected year shall be included in the team salary of the claiming team. The claiming team may not trade a player until the July 1 following the award of the player's contract. And if a claiming team trades a player, the acquiring team must have room or a traded player exception equal to at least the claiming team base compensation obligation plus likely bonuses and shall thereafter be deemed the claiming team. Now, it gets a little tedious and repetitive when talking about the partial waiver claim and a claiming team via when they subsequently waive a player after being awarded the contract. So I'm just going to go with two definitions. You have the, quote, triggered base compensation protection, which is when the team doesn't take into consideration any conditional base compensation protection that is triggered after the date of the initial request for waivers, but before the subsequent waiver. That's the definition of that. And when the claiming team base compensation obligation for any remaining protected year that contains only partial base compensation protection is reduced by a number equal to the claiming team base compensation obligation for that year divided by the total base comp obligation for that year multiplied by the unprotected base compensation remaining to be paid that year. That's the, quote, adjusted claiming team base compensation obligation. It's a mouthful. So pages 357 to 358 round out that whole section dealing with the claiming teams and what have you. Section 13, Wearables. The NBA Players Association will appoint an advisory committee, or the, quote, Wearables Committee, that will review and approve wearable devices for use by the players. The wearables mean a device worn by an individual that measures movement information such as distance, velocity, acceleration, deceleration, jumps, changes of direction, and player load calculated from that information and or height/weight. Biometric information such as heart rate variability, skin temperature, blood oxygen, hydration, lactate, and or glucose, or other health, fitness, and performance information. Now, a player may decline to use or discontinue use of a wearable at any time. Before a team can request that a player use a wearable, the team has to provide explanation of what the device will measure and what each measurement means, and the benefits to the player in obtaining such data. A player will have full access to all the data collected on him from the approved wearables. Members of the team staff may also have access, and the data may not be considered, used, discussed, or referenced for any other purpose, such as in negotiations regarding a future player contract or other player contract transactions involving the player. Example, a trade or a waiver. If a team is in violation of this, there will be a $250,000 fine for the violation. No player data collected from a wearable worn at the request of a team may be available to the public in any way or used for any commercial purpose. Article 23, Exhibition Games and Off-Season Games and Events. Section 1, Exhibition Games. Players are required to participate in exhibition games between an NBA team and non-member of the NBA at any location within or outside the U.S., subject to the following conditions. The NBA will supervise the arrangements and the accommodations. Excessive travel will be avoided and reasonable periods of time between games will be allotted. The annual Basketball Hall of Fame exhibition game is considered one of the 6 exhibition games. Section 2, Inter-Squad Scrimmage. Any team that qualifies for the playoffs but is not required to participate in the first round thereof may arrange and require its players to participate in one inter-squad scrimmage with another similarly situated team, provided it's not open to members of the general public. Off-season basketball events. No player may play in a public off-season basketball game, summer league game, or public exhibition or competition of basketball skills. Example, a slam dunk contest or a, quote, tour organized by an NBA business partner. Each, quote, basketball event, unless such basketball event is approved in writing by the NBA. The NBA will consider an off-season basketball event for approval only if it's submitted in writing and only if it's confirmed in writing and satisfies the following requirements. It needs to take place on or after July 1, but not later than September 15th, or in the case of a summer league, September 1. The players receive express written consent of their team. The people organizing the event obtains disability insurance for the benefit of each of the players' teams and shall not apply to summer leagues. The names and logos of the NBA or the teams are not used unless the NBA gives written consent. And additional charitable game requirements. The NBA will consider an off-season charitable game for approval only if the Players Association approves the game. All proceeds from the sale of tickets and other sources of revenue, less reasonable expenses, are used for charitable purposes. The game is officiated by NBA refs assigned by the NBA, and the people organizing it is responsible for paying the officiating fees as well as lodging and transportation for the refs. There's at least one NBA team trainer and at least one physician present at the game. The name or likeness of an NBA player can't be used in advertisements or promotions unless the organizer of the game is an NBA player. Only current or former pro basketball players can participate in the game. The game is not accompanied by an exhibition or competition of basketball skills like a slam dunk contest, unless separately approved in writing by the NBA and Players Association. Participating players are not paid or compensated in excess of their per diem and actual reasonable expenses incurred in traveling and participating in the game. The game will produce at least $100,000 for charity and post security for such amount in a form satisfactory to the NBA and the Players Association, which grants the NBA and or the Players Association the right to sue to recover such amount for the benefit of charity. The game is played in the United States or Canada, and the organizer agrees to provide the NBA and the Players Association with an audited statement of revenues and expenses within 60 days following the game. Additional Summer League requirements. The NBA will consider an off-season Summer League for approval only if the arrangements also satisfy the following. Participating players are not paid or compensated. The players don't participate in any exhibition of competition of basketball skills, such as slam dunk contests. Need a trainer and a physician at the game. It's played in the U.S. or Canada. And the NBA, in its sole discretion, may require that the basketball event organizer pay an appropriate fee to the NBA prior to the commencement of the event. Off-season games in which an NBA player participates on behalf of his National Basketball Federation as part of an international FIBA competition, example, Olympics and FIBA Basketball World Cup, are excluded from the definition of, quote, basketball event, provided that such exclusion will not apply to any preparatory exhibition game other than the games involving the U.S. national team, played and or telecast in the United States. Veteran free agents remain subject to the provisions of this section until September 1 following the last day of their player contract, provided that they are permitted to sign a contract with and play basketball games for a team in a professional basketball league other than the NBA beginning the following July 1 of that season or prior to the July 1 if approved in writing by the NBA. The NBA shall have the exclusive right to telecast or broadcast by radio any basketball event. The NBA, in considering a request for approval of a summer league, charity game, or other basketball event, does not consider or apply safety requirements for such leagues, games, or events. Section 4, Summer Leagues. No NBA team may simultaneously enroll more than 4 veterans in any summer basketball league during an off-season. The following players are not considered veterans. A player who has never signed a player contract or whose first player contract begins with the season immediately following the off-season in which the summer league is conducted. A player not under a contract on an NBA team at the time he enrolls in the summer league. A player under a contract but who missed 25 or more games during the regular season immediately preceding that off-season due to injury or illness, and a player who played for an NBA G League team or any other U.S.-based professional league during the regular season immediately preceding that off-season. Now, prior to playing in a summer basketball league, every player is going to be requested to sign a Notice to Veterans Players Concerning Summer Leagues form, which is Exhibit E, and their team will give that to them. The only compensation that may be paid by a team or any person or entity affiliated with the team to a player participating in the summer basketball league is reasonable expense allowance for meals, but no greater than what's set in Article 3, Section 2, lodging, and transportation. In addition, the team may purchase a disability insurance policy. No team shall schedule and no player shall participate in a summer basketball league past September 1. That concludes Articles 22 to 23, pages 344 to 367, covering player health and wellness, exhibition games, and off-season games and events. Happy studying. See you at the top.